everyone, and welcome back to another tutorial by Northern Loominations. Today we are going to be working on the Barney, so that's the one that's in my profile picture on my YouTube channel. It is a hook only project, so you'll just be needing your hook. The band count on it is about 4,500. You're going to need a lot of the body color, so I'm using the purple by Rainbow Loom. You'll also need, I'm using the jelly lime green for the belly and some spots, as well as some black, some white, and a little bit of the dusty rose for inside the mouth. This video is going to be broken up into many parts as it takes quite a while to make. This shouldn't be your first project. If you've had some practice with Loomy then you should be okay with this. It's just pretty straightforward that way, just a lot of parts to make and sewing together. Yeah, so that's about it. So what we're going to start with on this project right now in this video is the body. And oh yes, and you'll also need some C-clips to mark your stitches. I also want to let you guys know I am at home with my kids, especially now that they're on summer vacation, so if you hear some noises in the background, that would be them. I don't really get a lot of quiet time in order to make these, so you have to just try and ignore the noises sometimes. But yeah, so let's begin with our body. And okay, also for this project you're going to need something to stuff the finished product with. I'm going to use polyfill, but you are going to need a lot of stuffing. So we'll begin by making the magic ring. So to start that, we'll take a band and wrap it around the hook 3 times, creating 3 loops like that. And then there's going to be 6 stitches around here. So I put a band on the hook, I pull all the stitches through, or pull it through the 3 bands, and then just make a slip knot like that, leaving this on your hook. I'm going to go back in through all 3 of these loops here. Take another band, pull that through, and reclaim it. So you got something that looks like this. Taking this last end here and pulling it through. And then you'll see you kind of got a stitch here. So do that again, go through all 3 bands. Make sure you always go through all 3. Pull through. And this is the last one, so that is 6 stitches there. So then we're just going to take a C-clip, or whatever you want for marking your rows. And then that just shows that that's where our row ended. So now that that round's finished, you can see along the edge there are these little teardrops here, so those are each a stitch, so you should have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 on your hook is 6. Okay, so the next round, what we're going to do is an increase in each of the stitches. So go in through these 2, take your band, go like when you start. Now here you go back in that same stitch, grab your next band, pull that through, and do a stitch. So we're going to do that on every single stitch all the way around. Getting ahead of myself there. And do an increase again on the last stitch here. Okay, so you move your stitch marker to the new stitch, and you should have 12 stitches, so 1, what happened there? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 1 on the hook is 12. Okay, so you want to make sure you don't use stretched out bands. If they're stretched out, they will end up leaving a gap, and then you'll see the stuffing and stuff through it. So the next round, what we're going to do is a single stitch followed by an increase in the next stitch. So that's 1, and then here we're going to do an increase. Oops. Just happened. There we go. Go back in, do your increase. And then this one's a single stitch, and then an increase. Again, a single stitch and an increase. Just keep repeating that pattern till you get to the end. My camera keeps going blurry. This last stitch is an increase. Okay, move your stitch marker again, and then just count your stitches to make sure that they're all there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 1 on the hook is 18. So you guys should have 18 at the end of that. Now, what's next? The next one is we're going to do 2 single stitches followed by an increase. Okay, so single stitch in the first 2 stitches, and then here we do an increase. And again, 2 single stitches, and then an increase. And then we just keep repeating this pattern until we get to the end, and your last stitch should be an increase. last set. And this one's an increase. Okay, and again we're going to move the stitch marker over there. Okay, so you'll start to get something looking like this. So now, this row, we're just going to do a single stitch all the way around. And just make sure that you get your stitch in all of them, and you're counting so that your rounds are the right counts. Make sure you're not missing a stitch, because it makes it a little bit harder later on if you end up missing one. Okay, and I'm on my last stitch here. Got through, move your stitch marker again, like that. Okay, so the next round we're going to do is 3 single stitches followed by an increase, and we'll repeat that pattern all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, and here we'll do an increase. So go back in and repeat that. 1, 2, 3, and an increase here. And again, 1, 2, 3, and an increase. One, 2, 3, and an increase. One, 2, 3, and an increase. One, 2, 3, and last stitch is an increase. Okay, and again move your stitch marker. Okay, so this is going to be the bottom of him where we attach the legs and stuff. So it should start to look like this. We'll go out a couple more. The next row is a single stitch in the first 4 and then followed by an increase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we'll do the increase. Okay, and then just keep repeating that pattern around. I don't know if you guys want to listen to me counting all the time, but it kind of gets monotonous. 2, 3, 4, and an increase. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and an increase. One, 2, 3, 4, and an increase. One, 2, 3, 4, and an increase. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and an increase on the last stitch. Okay, move your stitch marker again. So that's what that looks like. So after that round, make sure you count your stitches. You should have 36 stitches at that point. So now, just find my place. The next one we're going to do is 5 single stitches followed by an increase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here we're going to do an increase. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and an increase. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and an increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and an increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and an increase. And move your stitch marker. Okay, so that one was 42, so just go and count each stitch, making sure that you have 42 stitches all the way around. So now for the next rows, we're just going to do the same stitch around. You're actually going to do that for the next 7 rows. So I'll start with you a little bit, and then I'm going to go off camera and finish, and then join up when we get back. So again, just go around the same. To keep track of your rows, I generally use tally marks on my notebook, just so I can keep track of all the rows. You can also, not counting this one, start adding stitch markers and just leave them on until there's 7 of them there, and that's another way. Or you can use rubber bands, put out 7 rubber bands and just use that as your last stitch for each row until all 7 are gone. But figure out how to keep track of row you're on for this part, and this is going to happen a lot as we finish off the body. So yeah, anyways, go do your 7 rows of 42 stitches and meet me back here when you are finished. And welcome back, everyone. After those 7 rounds, you should have something that looks like this, kind of like a bowl. So now we're going to start working on slimming up the body a little bit, heading up towards the neck. So just follow me. So the first round we're going to do 5 single stitches followed by a decrease. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here we're going to do the decrease. So to do a decrease, what I do is I go in through the first stitch, bring my hook back towards the middle. You'll see the second stitch open up there. Put your hook back through that second stitch, so you now have the 2 stitches on your hook. So just take a band, pull it through the first stitch and then the second stitch, and then finish it off like you do normally. Okay, so continue. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and again do a decrease here. Okay, and again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a decrease. Again, 1, 2, oops, 3, 4, 5, and a decrease. We just keep repeating this process all the way around. And here it's a decrease. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a decrease. Okay, move your stitch marker. So now we are going to do 4 rows of the same stitch around. This is going to be a very gradual decrease. His body doesn't sharply go, but he's kind of got a large bottom. So I'll start these with you and just do single stitches all the way around for 4 rounds. Remember to keep track of your rounds either with your stitch markers, rubber bands, or with your tally marks, so we can keep track. So I'm just gonna pause my video now and finish this off camera, and then you guys come back to this point when you finished your rounds, and we will continue on. So once you've completed those 4 rows, it should be looking like this, starting to come in a little bit. So the next row, what we're going to do is 4 single stitches followed by a decrease, and repeat that pattern all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then here we do our decrease. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then here we do a decrease. again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a decrease. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and a decrease. One, 2, 3, 4, and a decrease, and then one more time after this. One, 2, 3, 4, and this last 2 stitches are a decrease. Okay, move your stitch marker. Now for the next 4 rounds, we're just going to do the same all the way around again. So once again, I will start with you guys, and then I'm going to pause it, and you guys can finish your 4 rounds and then come back to this point in the video. Again, keep track of your rounds, whichever way you guys like best. Okay, so just going to continue going, just following it around. Keep track, keep marking your rows, and come back to this point when you are finished. Now that you've finished those 4 rows, we are going to do 3 single stitches followed by a decrease, and we'll repeat that pattern all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, and then here we do a decrease. Like so, and repeat the pattern. Last set here. And a decrease here. Okay, move your stitch marker. Now, for the next 2 rounds, yeah, we'll start with 2. We'll see how that looks. For the next 2 rounds, you're just going to do the same around. Just all single stitches around for 2 rounds this time. And I'm just going to pause the video again and do these off camera just to keep the video length a little bit shorter. So go ahead, pause the video, do your 2 rounds, and meet me back here. Okay, so I finished those 2 rounds. So now for the next round, we're going to do a single stitch 2 times followed by 1 decrease. So 1, 2, and then a decrease. And just keep repeating that pattern until you get to the end again. And a decrease in the last 2 stitches again. And then I'm just going to take my C-clip off. I'm not going to mark this. And I'm going to go in through the first stitch here, take a band, and then I'm going to pull it through all 3 of the bands that were on my hook, reclaim the end, and just tie a slip stitch. And that is the body. So you should have something that looks like this. I'm going to stuff it in the next video while I'm working with the head, just in case I have to extend it a little bit. I'm not sure. But you guys can go ahead and stuff it if you want. I just may be adding another row around here just to get it to look right. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this tutorial so far, and I'll see you over in the next part where we'll be making the head.